holy shit, are we gonna get away with that? But I think the most unexpected part of that was actually Leah Vassi coming in. And I mean, I'm glad that, you know, when we heard the song, I'm glad that now it's stuck in all of your heads, you know? Leah, talk about coming in and doing that song and where you thought it would lead, because we're all on this amazing journey right now. And that scene is probably one of the single most talked about scenes in the movie, other than like the bedroom scene and everything else. So let's hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly had no idea what I was really getting myself into, I guess. I got involved with Terrifier because I had worked on another project with Fuzz on the Lens, and Jason Levy from Fuzz on the Lens was involved in casting. He brought me in for a couple other roles that I didn't end up booking from Terrifier 2. And then when it came to the Clown Cafe scene, he contacted me again and he said, I know that you sing. That was really like the selling point for me, was that he knew I was a singer. And he said, you know, send in an audition tape for this. So I had the one line. I didn't have the Clown Cafe song in the audition, I don't think. I'm pretty sure I probably sang like a Taylor Swift song or something. I honestly have no idea. John and Al Kaplan wrote the song. A lot of people ask me if I wrote the song, and no, I didn't write it. But yeah, it was so fun being on set, and I feel like when I got there, y'all had been filming for a really long time, and everyone was like a family, and I was welcomed in like with open arms, which was really great. But as soon as I saw the set, I knew that it was like really gonna be something cool, because the mural was up there and the little like food truck that art comes out of, and it was in this like warehouse where like Sienna's bedroom was there and Allie's bedroom was there, so I got to walk through and see like all these other sets and all these other like cool things that they've been doing, and I'd never been on a film set like that, something that was like built from the ground up. And I mean, we had the fire department there for the fire thing. Like you could just tell like this was like a big deal and it was gonna be something really cool, and I was just happy to be a part of it. It was really fun. It was really exciting. I met some really cool people and that I'm still friends with and still work with to this day. And I love the song, and people also ask me if I'm sick of it. I'm definitely not. I probably find myself singing it randomly just as much as the rest of you do. Yeah, I'm happy to sing it whenever anyone asks.
Now, the set for that particular scene is pretty outrageous, right? Phil, let's talk about that set and how it came to be, and Damien's reluctance at first because he thought there was no way we'd be able to do it.
Not a reluctance to build the set. It was, we were like 4 days away from shooting the scene.
I was driving to the day of shooting saying, I don't know how we're going to shoot, but nothing's ready.
We were down in my basement where we built everything, and we're molding body parts and everything, and he says, Phil, we gotta push the shoot back. And I said, no, I don't want to push the shoot back anymore. We're not pushing the shoot back. And he goes, Phil, we don't even have a set. They said, you stay here and build this shit. I grabbed George, Steve Della Sala, Jason, my friend Larry was upstate, and Rob. I said, don't cancel the shoot. And I went up there, and in 3 days we built the set. And he came up and he walked in the barn expecting to say, I told you we got fucking. And he walked in and he went, holy shit, because you did it. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but you know, like I said, you couldn't ask for better people. Even though George wouldn't let me pick up a goddamn hammer. He's afraid I'm gonna keel over and die.
Can I just say that Phil worked on this after open heart surgery? I want to talk about a tough as nails person with devotion. Give it up for Phil Falcone.
I have video of him hours before he's going into surgery, sketching out blueprints to me and George of how to build the Clown Cafe and the crypt if he dies while I'm under. Yeah, like that's how amazing this guy is, no joke.
That's called leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
How's this? Terrifier 2 almost wasn't. My birthday was a couple of days after my surgery, and these two geniuses come to me with a cupcake with a candle in it, and I had to blow it out with the oxygen tank blowing. My wife saw the pictures and she sent us text. Are you jerks? She could have blew up the whole room.
Yeah, Damien has a habit of setting things on fire.
Oh yeah.
We don't talk about that.
We'll save that story for another time.
I also want to add, it's a good thing we did not postpone that shoot because we filmed that whole entire Clown Cafe scene right before we went to lockdown in New York. So if we postponed it, who knows what would have happened.
It was almost 3 days, 3 days ago to the day,
Yeah.
I think, that we shot it.
Yeah.
And we were all like up there, we were like in the middle of nowhere, you didn't really get phone service there. And I remember like calling my mom being like, what is going on? Like, is the world ending? Am I gonna like be able to get back into New York City? But we were all just like, screw it, we gotta film this thing and then we'll figure it out after.
So, Damien already said it, one of his favorite characters is Sienna. And Lauren Rivera is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best damn final girls we've had in a really long time. And yes, and she'll probably see this, so give it up for Lauren. But one of the things that made her character so very special is the love for her brother, Jonathan. And Elliot, who we're all going to end up working for sooner or later. The kid's a rock star now, right? So, one of the big, talk about bringing in Elliot and what he brought and what you were looking for.
Yeah, dude, he was the hardest role to cast because just trying to find a kid that young and who goes under that much torture, emotionally, physically, was a big deal. And again, as soon as we saw Elliot's audition, there was never a runner-up in terms of talent and charisma. The only thing we were concerned about when we first cast him was originally the role was intended to be for a much younger character, like a much younger actor, and that's all. The only thing we were ever, potentially struggling with. But it was so clear that he was the only person who was going to be able to knock it out of the park, and he did. And so dedicated, such a natural, so charismatic, so easy to work with. Never complained once, no matter what sort of hellish, thing we threw at him, or if he had to get whipped, or if he had to literally really get smacked by Sarah. He really took an actual smack in that scene when his mom cracks him, thanks to his father, who's a bit of a sadist. But we really just lucked out. I mean, we really lucked out with so many amazingly talented people, and Elliot was one of them, and he was such an important character in this film. He's really the only one who sort of knows what's to come, like the evil that's lurking and brewing, and he's a big part of the heart of this film, and it's very much based on me as a kid. I mean, I was very similar to Jonathan, and still am. So you did me proud, kid. Great job, man.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about Jonathan. Your dad was the one who was really influential in getting you the role, right?
Yes, well also Jason was doing the casting as well, and I had immense support from the cast and crew, Lauren, David supporting me, pushing for me as well. But yeah, the audition process was awesome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're lucky too, because my sister wouldn't have taken anywhere near that much of a beating for me, man. Like, not even a little. But
It's for the love of horror.
now, were you a fan of the original?
Yes, the first Terrifier, I saw All Hallows Eve a little later after it, but yes, the original Terrifier, I was a huge fan. Before I even auditioned, I saw that Terrifier 2 audition and I was freaking out, because like, Art the Clown, oh my gosh.
And your parents actually let you do that. Let's hear it for Elliot's parents. First.
Yeah. I love you, Mom and Dad.
So now, David, you're like this.
Pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain.
The unsung hero.
Yes.
So, David, you're like really evil as this character, but now you have so much good to come up against, in Lauren's character, Sienna, and of course Jonathan.
She's a pain in the neck. Literally.
Let's talk about you meeting your match,
Yeah.
you know, Art the Clown meeting your match. I mean, what was that like for you? I mean, the prospect of fighting a character as strong as you, what was that like for you?
That was actually something that I, you know, when he was coming up with the idea, we talked a lot about it, because I was like, Art needs a really strong protagonist to go up against. He needs the Batman to his Joker. And I'm like, I was so excited because he told me all about it, so I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. So that was like, I knew this film, especially with the script he wrote, like, it's going to depend not on Art. We have to find someone that is really good for this character, because this movie is going to depend on the audience falling in love with this protagonist, Sienna. And it's that we cast the perfect person for it. And I saw that just in the audience when I would go to some of the screenings without people knowing I was there. What made me so happy was one night I was at the screening, and when it came to her cutting off Art's head, spoiler alert.
I think it's safe to say.
Yeah. But just hearing the audience just actually start cheering and clapping when that happened, I was like, yes, this is what I was really wanting to happen for this character, because that meant not only did they hate me at that point, they loved her and they were cheering for her, and I was so stoked for finally we had this great other, you know, the yin to his yang that he can go up against, and I'm excited just to see where it's going to go from now, because that's what I love. Is like the hero's journey that she goes on in this movie is just fantastic, and now she's realized who she is, so I can't wait to see where she goes from here. It's ooh.
So before we open it up to your 10,000 Terrifier 3 questions, one last question for David. David, talk about the relationship you have with Damien, and Damien likewise. You two, you're magic together, you know? Damien, talk about directing David and the communication that you guys have with each other, and just how much you trust each other to really bring this character to life.
Yeah, it's very easy. He's very easy to work with. It's very fun. I have a very clear idea with what I want when I write the script. So we go in there, we'll shoot it a couple of takes the way I want it, and then I'll turn it over to him, you know, and just there's a lot of scenes that we're able to play with and explore. You know, the pizzeria scene, for example, in part 1, or the glasses in the costume shop in part 2, whenever he can really go off the rails and improv, you know, I allow him to do that. And then we get all these wonderful things. He does some amazing things that are very quirky and cool and things I wouldn't think of, and then we're able to take all those elements, and then I can mold the performance in the editing room. If I need Art to be a little quirkier, I have those takes. If I want it to be a lot creepier, I have those. So it's a very great way to work, but you know, we're at the point now where it's very, very little direction. It's just very vague tweaks, this and that. It's not, we don't sit down and have deep discussions about where we're gonna go and how we're gonna tackle a scene. It's like, yeah.
It's more like, what kind of smile do you want here? What kind of eyes do you want here? Or something
Yeah.
like that. And so we have like our own language between each other now, where I know exactly what he wants.
And I don't know if did anyone here do the photo op with him in full makeup today? One of the most genius things, first of all, give it up for Damien and David for doing the makeup every damn time. But one of the most incredible things about David as Art the Clown is I've been in a few of the photo ops with him in makeup, and once David gets into makeup, he's a completely different person. He's Art the Clown. He doesn't speak. He walks differently, he moves differently. It's really amazing to see, and it's great to see him interact with all of you guys, because he treats everyone differently. It's absolutely amazing. So kudos for you taking the time to do that. So now, let's open it up for some questions. Right there, the guy with his hand up. I got you next.
Growing up, I was a huge wrestling fan. I was happy to see Chris Jericho. Can you
Yeah.
tell us more about that?
Yeah, Chris Jericho, baby, huh? It's fantastic. Such a cool dude. How did he discover one of his band members? Huge horror fan, and so is Chris. So on their tour bus, he showed Chris the hacksaw scene from Terrifier 1. He said, you have to see this, you're gonna love this movie. And Jericho was like, oh God, he's like, another fucking killer clown movie? He's like, I don't care. He's like, no, trust me, you gotta see this scene. He shows him the hacksaw scene, and Jericho was like, wow, that's pretty sick. And he became a really big Art the Clown fan after that. And then I think you two ran into each other at a convention.
Yeah, I was doing another convention, and I'm actually sitting at my table, and I just feel this presence like making its way through the line, and I was about to get upset with someone trying to cut the line, and I look up and it's Jericho just looming over me, and I'm like, he's like, hey man, I'm like, hi. He's like, dude, I love the film. You want to come on my podcast? I'm like, yeah. And so I went up that night. I was like, I come to the room and he's just chatting away with DDP, having their own podcast. I'm like, oh my god. It's just like my childhood is going crazy inside of me. I was like, oh my god. But yeah, we chatted and stuff like that. And he was like, he even kind of was like, part 2. Hey, do you think there might even be any way I can get it? And I'm like, you're gonna have to talk to Damien. So like we did another convention, and Damien was at that convention with me, and I was like, hey, you guys need to talk.
Yeah. No, and then he's so cool, loves horror movies. Him and I were just hanging out one night, having a couple of drinks, just talking about our love for horror movies. And then he said, dude, if you ever have anything for me, he's like, I'd love to be a part of this. No pressure or anything. He's like, but yeah, just let me know. And I was like, hell yeah, how am I not gonna have Chris Jericho in this movie? I'm gonna write something tonight. So yeah, I wrote him in there, and he was gracious enough to just really come down for 2 days and shoot that scene at the end with Leah, which was pretty amazing. Yeah, you got to shoot with Chris, right? So,
Not me.
Oh, your head made it into the same scene.
It was fun, for sure. And he's super professional, and the thing with wrestling, I feel like it's very heightened, because then it's acting, but it's very over the top. And the scene that we did was very natural, just like two coworkers having a conversation. And I didn't know what that was going to be like with a wrestler, but it was so great. It was so easy. It was a great time. It was fun. I was lucky.
There's a question right there.